So D, K is for kindly tell me how we are almost at the end of May.
You actually rhymed too. I don't know. Time flew by, didn't it?
It did. One minute you're weeding in the garden, the next minute you're looking up and you're thinking, it is almost
It's
June.
June. Yeah, it's like June in a week. Well, less than a week.
Uh,
Woo,
anyway,
you better get started.
yeah, I will get us started. Welcome to the Garden Angelist, where we chat about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
And I'm Dean Ash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I still have a large garden out in the country, even though I have downsized.
We are Garden Angelists because we love gardening. We want you to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But let's move on to this week's episode. All right, Carol, you came in from the garden. I can see the pink in your cheeks.
I did. I did want to
What have you been
explain.
doing?
So this morning I cleaned up the rest of the vegetable garden beds that didn't have tomatoes or peppers in them or the spring greens, and those are ready for seeds. And I came in and I made up all my seed labels, figured out what I was going to plant out there, and I thought, well, let's plant one variety of green beans. I have like seven, no, four, maybe five. Anyway, so but let me
Goodness.
let me back up.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, listeners, Dee has a little bit of a cold.
I have a little cold from my husband. Also, the new creature that lives with me now is climbing up the back of my desk. Oh, there he is as we speak.
So we'll talk about him in just a minute. So, and I'm pretty good on the audio side of editing out things, but on the video side, I am not. So it is going to
No.
be raw, unfiltered on the video side. Anyway, so I spent 2 solid days planting last Sunday and Monday. I got all the annuals potted up and planted out. And then it rained Tuesday, it rained Wednesday, it's cold. I feel like spring just like decided to do an about face,
Yeah.
but I still picked strawberries twice. I picked lettuce. The first pea pods, a variety called Snowbird. I picked a whole bunch of those yesterday, put that on Instagram on a story. So,
I have
and I
a
also
bunch
have
of
got,
peas this year. Like I've been
I
eating
do too.
peas every day. Well, that doesn't usually happen for me. I'm usually if I
Well,
get 2 weeks worth.
with this cool spring.
It has been cool.
Yeah. Of course, I've mowed the lawn and I
Ouch.
set up my little fairy garden out front.
Okay. Wow, you've been busy. You were going to explain why you had five kinds of green beans before I interrupted you.
Well, I have provider. And
Yep,
then this winter, when I was at the store just buying random packets of seeds,
as
I
one
bought some,
does.
I bought some yellow green beans, which sounds weird, yellow wax beans,
Yeah, wax beans.
stringless tender pod or something like that. One called tenderette. And I'm just like, oh, I have like 4 or 5 varieties here. I will plant them all and see how it goes.
See how it goes. Ow. Somebody's claws just got me.
So before we
Okay.
go much further, so why don't you, since it's where is he?
He's right here in my lap.
Show your new kitty.
This is Mishka. Mishka means little teddy bear. It also means Michael. It's an endearment for Michael. Masha's an endearment for Mary. So,
So where is
um,
Masha?
away from Mishka because he drives her nuts. She's back in the bedroom, laying down.
So they have
She's had enough.
interacted.
Oh yeah, they've interacted. Yeah, yeah. They run and chase each other. And the other day, I mean, for a while there, she would just bap him in the face when he was being bad. And then the other day, he bapped her back. And so now things are more even. And I'm like, well, there you go.
There you go. Did you
There
do
you
anything
go.
in the garden other than go get a cat?
I went and got a cat. That's why you wrote our newsletter because I also was taking care of Bill because when men get a cold, even the guy I took him in and he has bronchitis, but the PA laughed and we walked out and he turned around and looked at me. He goes, basically he has man flu. And I said, I just laughed. All right. So, but he got, medicine. So let's see, what did I do? Oh, I got in 3 new rose bushes from
I see
Antique
that.
Rose Emporium. And one's called Southern Sweet Tea, Sunbelt Soul Sister, and Fragrant Blush. And I love those Sunbelt roses because they are tough, tough, tough. I have Sunbelt Plum Perfect and Sunbelt Savannah. And I love them. And I
Nice.
also used to have Sunbelt South Africa. It finally died, but I had it for years and years. So the other two I don't know well, so they're just really fun to try. And I planted up two of them. And then the other one I'm going to put down in the garden and replace Basie's blueberry because I've had it for 35 years and it's just okay. There's better roses now.
Well,
So
after 35 years, you're just gonna like dismiss it to the compost pile?
pretty much, yeah. Sometimes you have to
Uh,
make room. And also we got more sun now because we don't have that stupid Eastern red cedar. So let's see. One thing I wanted to say is I went and bought some back to earth at TLC Nursery in the city.
uh-huh.
And they don't have back to nature, but they're both cotton composted cottonseed hulls. So I literally wore my mask because it stinks so bad. Did you notice it? I wonder why it smells.
I never use cottonseed
I
hulls.
guess not, because it's probably something you guys don't have a lot of. But
I've never
anyway,
seen it for sale.
it's black, it's beautiful and black because it's composted, but it stinks. So I put on my mask and drove home with the windows open. I probably look like a Fruit Loop, but I don't care. And it's just the way it goes.
You did look like a Fruit Loop.
I did. I looked like a total Fruit Loop, lady with the mask on. And, but you know what? I came home and I was fine. So let's play favorites. I've been weeding and
Okay.
mulching. So what have you been
Okay.
doing?
All right. So
Play
the
favorites.
favorites, there's 100 of them out there. But this
Right now,
morning,
yes.
I opened the blinds in the kitchen, and right
Yeah.
outside is a hanging basket that I put the Kufia Vermillionaire, which is the little orange cigar looking flowers. And there was
Yeah.
a hummingbird on it. So I thought, there's my favorite.
There have been a lot of hummingbirds here lately. You don't need hummingbird feeders if you plant the right plants.
No, and with all the salvias that I planted around, plus those, and I put I think I put three of the Vermillionaire, which are orange, and then there's another variety called Sugar Bells, which is
Yeah.
from Ballhort. Vermilion's from Proven Winners. I put that in there too.
I bet that was a nice combo. And then my favorite, hands down, is Peggy Martin. I did a little video on her. I love the story of Peggy Martin, and um, it's been on Rose Chat twice, and I'll find the later episode for our newsletter. And it's just one of those stories that is really about survival and you know, persistence and resilience. And it's not just because of the rose. The rose was under salt water for 2 weeks in her garden, and I guess she also had a crinum make it, and that was it. But Peggy's whole story is just, I mean, she lost everything. She even
Yeah.
lost her parents
There's
in
a
Hurricane Katrina.
there's a children's book about that, Peggy Martin Rose.
There
Do,
is, yeah.
do you have it?
No, but I need to get it because Peggy's been blooming like a champ for 3 weeks. God
You should.
bless her.
I got it. It's very sweet, and I sent it to my nephew down in New Orleans. I said, "Well, he
That's
should
a
have
great.
that."
We should mention it's a very southern rose. I'm growing it at the edge of its hardiness. I know it's grown in a few places in Indiana too.
I was
So
going to say, doesn't our friend Teresa Byington have Peggy
I
Martin in
think
her
she has
garden?
it. Yeah, I think she has it and it's in protection. Mine's not in a protected area, and sometimes it dies all the way to the ground. So then I have to retrain it. But she's a rambler, so she's a fast grower.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. It
Just
makes her
trust
sound
me.
like she's kind of a tramp or something.
She's not a tramp. She
She's a
sticks to her
survivor.
area. She's a survivor, and we love her. And since she's named after a real Rosarian, that would be terrible.
Exactly. Let's do the question of the week.
Are you going to do the quote first and then the question? You have a quote there.
The quote is in the wrong spot. It belongs
Okay.
next.
Okay. So let's do the question of the week.
Because when I made the notes and I put in, we're going to talk about Dee's question about a woman who has a big weedy area. I put it in
Mhm.
the wrong spot in the notes, listeners. It is all on me.
Okay. Do you want me to ask the question? I've got it right here
Well, yeah,
on
because
my phone.
I know. Go ahead.
All right. So this is from one of my clients. I'll just say her first name, Ashley. And she goes, And she sends me a picture of this big garden bed she has at the back of her house. And they just moved into this house and I garden coach her. So she said, I can't keep up, laugh out loud. Can I put anything on this to kill it, but keep my other stuff alive? And my question was, what the heck is that? Because it was far enough away, I could not
Yeah.
see it. Okay. And so she was distressed because it's growing really fast. And I said, do you want me to answer it or do you want to answer it? Is there anything she
Well,
can spray on it that will only kill it and not kill her ornamental plants?
no, ma'am.
No, there's not. So broadleaf kills broadleaf. It does not know what is broadleaf and what is not.
Doesn't know what you
Okay.
paid good money for and what you didn't.
No. And so I said, take a photo up close. I need to see those leaves. So she did. And I thought, that looks like amaranth. And then and she put and so then I actually did a search online because I was like, what weed looks like amaranth? Because I was thinking, and guess
Amaranth.
what? It is. It's an amaranth. And it is called, did I take a picture of that particular one? It's Amaranthus. Oh, now I don't have it on here. In the pictures I sent you, I missed that part. So it's an amaranth that is wild. It's called pigweed. I don't need to know
I'm
the
familiar with
species.
pigweed. I'm
Pigweed is
familiar.
terrible. Pigweed, because all amaranths put out a million seeds, just like
Mm-hmm.
celosia, right?
Yeah.
And
It,
so
yep.
just imagine a weedy version of amaranth, and that's what she's got. So what would you tell her to do, Carol? You know what I told her to do. I sent you the answer.
I don't remember what answer you gave her.
Well, okay, so you have a whole bed of pigweed, but it's really tiny because you did have somebody weed some of it out when it was bigger, but it stirred up all those seeds in the soil. So what would you do?
Well, so was there a lot of other landscaping in that bed?
Not yet. No, there's only a couple of things.
You know what I might do on that?
What?
I might solarize that soil, put down that clear plastic all over it and weight that down and leave it for a good long while. Let it all solarize and it'll kill that amaranth, or it should. Then pull it back and very lightly remove all the debris and then go ahead and mulch it really good. I don't know, by then it's the middle of summer in Oklahoma, not exactly planting season.
Yeah,
And
maybe
then
the end of summer.
I would come
Yeah.
back at the end of summer and early fall, and I would go ahead and landscape that bed with the shrubs and perennials and whatever else. That's what I would do.
Okay, so that was one of the options that I gave her. I said, you could put down, and I didn't say clear plastic. You can also use black, although clear is supposed to be better. And I
Clear
said, you can
goods
put
hotter,
down,
they say.
yeah, for some reason. And I said, put down plastic and then weight it down with rocks and wait. That's option number one. Option number two is to take a hand hoe and gently weed out a small section at a time and immediately come back in with 3 inches of mulch right there.
That's a good
And
idea.
then a little section mulch. And she goes, and I said, and it needs to be big enough mulch and it needs to kind of mat together mulch. So I said, don't use Happy Grow's landscaper mix because it's tiny. I said, you need like arborist chips where they kind of interlock. And I said, and that'll cut down on it. I said, that's not going to get rid of it, but it'll cut down on it. So those were two really good options. And I thought it was a great question. She was
It
very
is a
discouraged, but at the end, she said, I'm going to do one or the other. And then she said, well, at least it's easier to pull up than the dang Bermuda. And I said, you need a Cobra head for the Bermuda. And I sent her a link. So
very good. We'll put a link to the Cobra head weeder. I was using that today to
I
clean
love
up my
them.
little vegetable garden beds out there. And it's like that was the only tool I needed. And when I go out to sow my green beans and all that, I will probably use the Cobra head again. So we will link.
I think
And now,
I think it's a good one. So now
yeah.
you're going to do the quote.
Sometimes the most scenic roads in life are the detours you didn't mean to take, and that is Angela N. Blount, Once Upon a Road Trip. I have no idea about that book, but I do believe that sometimes you take a detour and it's like, wow, how did I end up here? And it's very nice.
Yeah, exactly. So flowers, K is for, the first one you wrote was
Kudzu.
no,
What?
kudzu. Kudzu is
Kudzu.
bad, Miss Carol.
It is, but wait a minute. So remember we have this big bad book of botany?
You do, yes.
So yeah, because I thought it was really good, and so I thought,
You
here, my
bought
very
it.
take. Yes.
Yes.
Um, so this is a very beneficial plant. Did you know that?
The Southerners that are in our audience would tell you that they don't feel that way, but you go right ahead.
Well,
T
um,
try to sell us on kudzu. Of course, no, you're going to say it right off. No one should plant it,
no one should knowingly plant this. It
which is
says,
that ship has already sailed in the South, but go ahead.
yes. So it's called a plant of all trades. It's Puraria lobata, and it says, and I'm just gonna have to show you some stuff. Whatever you believe, kudzu, and I spelled it wrong in our notes, vilified as a weed in the southeastern United States, has some amazing properties. One of them, which is it can completely consume a tree and kill that tree because it blocks all the sunlight for it.
Yes.
But as an herbal remedy, it's used in East Asia for treatments for many health problems, including alcoholism. It supposedly cuts down your need for alcohol. Other health problems: deafness, diabetes, diabetic retinopathy, menopausal symptoms, gastroenteritis, and cardiovascular diseases, particularly angina. And it's in the pea family, D. That's
Uh-huh.
probably why they brought it over here, because it does fix nitrogen in the soil. And
I don't know why they brought it over here.
yeah, but it kind of steals, it's called interference competition. It basically cuts off the light supply for the plants you do want, but they brought it over for erosion control because it also increases nitrogen content. A lot of goat farmers use kudzu-based feeds because of the nutritional value of it. Uh,
Kudzu.
yes,
You said
60%.
kudzu.
I'm sorry, kudzu.
Yeah, keep
Uh,
going.
it's a good makes a good material for basketry and fiber arts, has long runners and large vine material that is great for weaving. Kudzu
I did know
fiber,
they had started weaving it. I did know
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Kudzu fiber, originally called hemp, was once important to the production of paper and clothing. Uh, and in the United States, kudzu is an ingredient in some lotions, soaps, and compost.
Yes.
And they make uh, a, a drink out of the roots.
Yep.
It
Okay.
says people from Vietnam usually flavor this starch with pomelo oil and use it as a refreshing drink, etc., etc., etc. Some people have even made jellies out of the kudzu flower. So it is highly invasive, and you should have to drive through the southeastern United States to see how bad it is. And so
Mhm.
don't ever plant it, but don't think people were dumb to come and bring it and plant it, because it did have some redeeming qualities. They just didn't realize that it was going to be a mess.
Yeah, that was just going to take over. Yeah, they didn't know that. All right,
So
so
anyway, kudzu.
the next one is Nephofia, and it's red hot poker plant, and
Hmm.
that's an easy one to grow if you
It
want to
is.
grow.
But here's the thing. So I went to Home Depot just to see the plants because it was
Uh-huh.
still kind of cold and rainy on Wednesday morning. And I thought, well, I'm heading down that anyway to go to Aldi and Menards. And so they had
Hmm.
a whole bunch of those red hot poker plants, and they were all blooming. I'm like, oh, they got them all to bloom early because mine's not near blooming. And
Mm-mm.
I'm thinking, well, people are going to put that out there, and then the bloom's going to be done, and they're just going to have like some spiky leaves. So I could take
Yeah,
it or
they're going to
leave
be
it.
disappointed. It's not my thing. I've grown it before, and I'm just not into it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's just,
But if you have a dry garden, it's great.
yeah,
People love it. Hummingbirds love
right.
it.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So we're just kind of, how about Calmia, mountain laurel.
Yeah, I tried to grow it and I couldn't grow it because my soil isn't acidic enough.
The soil's not very acidic enough here. It does have
Mm.
beautiful, mostly pink is what you see.
Hmm.
I did get some. I don't know where I got it. I can't imagine if somebody sent it to me as a trial plant, but it is a native shrub. It's native to again, like the southeastern mountain areas of the United States. But if you
Hmm.
don't have good acidic soil, you will be disappointed in it. And it's like rhododendrons and azaleas around here. Every once in a while, you'll hit a spot where they do really good, but for the most part, people are very disappointed in them because the soil is not acidic. But it is a
No,
K. It
yeah,
is a K,
it is. It
Calmia.
is.
And I,
We
you know
hadn't.
what? I
Mm,
hadn't thought about it, and before I looked it up, I didn't realize that it was actually a native. It looks like it's from China or Japan, but it's not.
it does, but it's from the mountains. It's from like North Carolina, which they have wonderful soil for that. All right, the next one is Nadia, which is pincushion flower.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you that I don't really grow this.
I've grown it. I won't anymore. The end. Okay, moving on.
Moving on. We're going to rip through these cases because we're like, no, no, not that one, not that one. We're indifferent to that one. So, okay. Colrateria paniculata is the golden rain tree.
Boy,
And
you worked on that one, didn't you?
well, I'm very familiar with this tree. We had one in our backyard when I was growing up, and it has
It's
yellow
pretty.
flowers in the middle of summer. And then that's followed by some very interesting seed
Beautiful.
pods that kind of
Hmm.
hang down. And it is a smaller tree, and so it's very nice. Um, it's not in that
Uh-oh.
backyard anymore.
Uh-oh. I was getting ready to ask you, and I just saw bad news underneath it
Yes.
because it's
So I looked it
very
up.
popular here. Very popular.
It is, but I looked it up on the Missouri Botanical Garden page,
Yeah.
and it's showing signs of being invasive. So then I went to the invasiveplantatlas.org, and there are a couple of counties in Indiana where I think they get on the list because somebody has found it growing in the wild, and that's kind of a sign that it's kind of escaped its native or it's escaped
Hmm.
somebody's garden. So I would just be really careful about planting this. I have no substitute for it as far as other a native tree that would be blooming in midsummer like that. But anyway,
So I'm
it's
looking at that map,
yeah,
trying to. It's one of those old-fashioned maps that is hard to deal with. Um, it doesn't appear to be invasive in Oklahoma yet. But boy, down in Texas and Louisiana, southern Texas, mid to southern, and then Louisiana, the Gulf, and parts of Florida, it's bad news. So, well, that's good to know. I wasn't planning on planting one at this stage, but they are pretty.
yeah, they're pretty and they have distinctive foliage and everything. And so, one of the things, and I was just going to look it up because there was another K that came across in our email
Hmm.
today, and if I don't find it, well, I just natter along here. Where did I put that? Because I
You
thought,
know
oh,
what?
we
While
should
you're
talk about
looking
that.
for it, I'm going to talk about Kalanchoe, and then you can
Yes.
look for it, okay? So Kalanchoe is sold a lot in February, and it's sold blooming February, March at the store as a house plant. It is a succulent, and it's one that I cannot grow. I've killed more Kalanchoes than probably anybody because I kind of like them. And so when I'm really miserable in the wintertime and I'll see one and I'll think, I'll take that home. And then I take it home and I go, that was a bad plan because in about a month it's very sad. So I don't know why, though one of our listeners knows why, they can tell us. Now, did you find the other one?
I did. It's beauty bush, which is Colwitzia amabilis, and Proven Winners has it. The color choice shrubs people have it as the plant of the week. The one they have is called Jolene. Jolene. Um, here's what I remember. Here's beauty bush. We learned about it in college, and this is where my
Oh,
college professor introduced us to the idea of 2 weeks of bloom, and then the rest of the year it's a big nothing burger.
yeah, it's just a great big old
And
drippy bush.
the and well, droopy, but also 10 feet tall. It's a big sucker.
I said drippy, but yes, because it looks like it's dripping its
Yes,
limbs. It kind of reminds
yes,
me of bridal veil spirea, which people love, but I'm like, it blooms for 2 weeks and that's it. And it gets
exactly.
huge. But
But
whatever.
so
Hmm.
Jolene gets
I'm
only
looking at it.
3 to 6 feet tall and 4 to 6 feet wide. So I suppose that that's a bit of an improvement.
I
Um,
guess.
it
It,
says very adaptable and carefree, zones 4 to 8. It says Grows well in moist soil types with good drainage. Do be mindful of overwatering as it does not respond well to extended sogginess.
Yeah.
Best left to grow naturally, again, because of that arching habit where it just kind of flows down. So we'll add that one to the list and maybe provide a link.
Okay. Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Or, you know, if we're kind of lazy, maybe not. You do that quote, we'll talk about vegetables.
Herb gardening has been compared to chamber music. Both are best appreciated in small places, for they have an intimate quality lost in a large hall or a big garden. And that's from Helen Morgenthau Fox. I agree with her because it is hard to enjoy herbs unless they're kind of grouped together in a smaller space. That's why I have them at the
Mm-hmm.
edge of my potager because they do really well there.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah, they're
hoping
pretty.
to find a small space to establish a true herb garden instead of having them scattered here and there. But let's talk about vegetables. So kale is our first K.
Yeah, so many ways to grow it, so many types. Ornamental to the just delicious. This is a little bratty cat that is driving me crazy. He keeps grabbing my leg with his little claws. Right now I'm growing the Toscana type, the blue, because I think it's pretty and it tastes good too. But I'm having trouble with earwigs this year. Earwigs are eating everything, and they're not just my garden, everybody's garden. And I think it's because we've
Hmm.
been so wet.
I have not had problems with earwigs. I'm growing just a few kinds of kale too. And um, I think that I forgot to look what varieties they were. One is smaller than the other. And I've been cutting some of the kale to add to the lettuce for my weekly or my daily lunch salad. And I
Yeah.
noticed the other day a little green worm in the sink, and I'm like, you came in on the kale.
Yeah, I had one come in too, and it's that time of year. I saw some cabbage moths dancing in the air, and I thought, yeah, you guys, turkey lurkeys.
Yeah.
Soon there'll be eggs everywhere.
So
So
kale
kale's
grow
easy to grow.
early in the spring. Just plant that baby right out there, and you'll have more kale than. I mean, it's actually easier than lettuce, I think.
It's really easy. And someone asked how it went when I threw down seeds in January in the snow. It did fine. It's come up. You have to protect it a bit if you have earwigs.
It's
And there's
really
only
cold
so much
hardy.
you can do. It is extremely cold hardy. In fact, I've had it where I've grown it all winter long and then just eaten it all winter. It gets big and kind of ugly. So it's the color of him, the Toscana is.
Yeah.
Carol's like,
So
that cat is driving me nuts.
so the other thing we talked about was Kalettes, which was a big thing, what, 8 or 9 years ago, they came out with these where they crossed Brussels sprouts with kale and they came up with this Kalettes. And
Yeah,
for everybody to know, I looked it up on Johnny's traditional hybridizing methods. This is not GMO or anything crazy,
no, no,
but you don't see them anymore.
no, they didn't take off. They were like little bitty kales. And everybody
Yeah.
went, why?
Well, it was like a little,
All
yeah.
the gardeners went, well, why would we eat that? I
Well, it
mean,
was
it's just,
like a little floret of kale that would grow in the leaflet of the plant. And so when I looked it up, the first page and a half of the search was
mhm.
all these recipes for it. And then I'm like, I had to look up Kalette seed source, and then they started popping up. And so Johnny's has just one variety
Yeah, I don't
available.
think they did so well, but they
It
were kind
was,
of a fun,
yeah,
fun little oddity, sort of like cucamelons. Cucamelons were a huge thing for several years, and now it's kind of like some people grow them, some don't.
yeah. So if you're big into kale or you want to, if you're a gourmet chef, because I did not look, my chef's book is right here. I did not look to see if
Oh, I'm
um
sure he talked about them. Yeah.
chef ch chef Lee Jones, Gardner Lee Jones, or whatever he calls himself.
Farmer.
Farmer. Why couldn't I think of farmer?
I
Farmer
don't
Lee
know.
Jones. I don't know what he has to say about Kalettes, but I am sure that they're in his book somehow. And
Oh, I'm
uh,
sure they are. They
okay.
look like Brussels sprouts with little kale little kale bits coming down the sides. So if you want a Brussels sprout that doesn't look like a Brussels sprout, the Kalette is for you.
And
I
I'm
don't know
just
that
like,
they taste any, I don't know what they taste like. I haven't had one.
I did not ever have the privilege or I don't know if it was a privilege, but yeah, Kalettes is in here. Sure thing. I should have looked this
Mhm.
up beforehand, like I was prepared or something. So yeah, he just has it as a little box. Um,
And that's it. Yeah. I don't think they were super popular.
yeah, I don't know. This is another thing that would grow well into the winter.
Can we go on to kohlrabi?
We can go on to kohlrabi, and we
So
should.
kohlrabi is also, you can look it up if you want to. Kohlrabi is also called German turnip or turnip cabbage, and it's a biennial. And this year, Terracotta Nursery up in Guthrie had kohlrabi. They had little plants. I did
Uh-huh.
not buy them. I've never grown kohlrabi, but it is a cold crop. You know, it's in the same species as cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, kalettes, collard greens. Savoy cabbage, and something called gai lan, which is, I guess, a Vietnamese or, Thai cabbagey thing.
Yeah.
So it can
Well,
be eaten raw or cooked. And I've eaten it. Have you eaten it?
I have because my dad used to grow kohlrabi in the garden. It was
Well,
one
then
of
you
his
know
early
more about
spring.
it than I do.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that I was in love with it or anything, but and I certainly haven't grown it. And one of the things that Farmer Lee Jones says is it's often mistaken for a root crop because it's that big bulbous base that you're harvesting,
Yeah,
but that's really the stem. It's not really the roots.
I didn't know that
So,
because I've
yeah.
never grown it. So interesting.
They
It is not the same species as a turnip, though.
no. And the what everybody suggests is that you shred it like cabbage for slaw, that you could make a slaw out
Yeah,
of it or shred it for a
yeah,
salad or whatever. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. Will I ever grow it? I don't know.
I'm not going to. You want to do the next quote?
I've got to put that big heavy book down and then I will do the
Okay.
next quote. If you want new ideas, read old books. Shane Parrish. True that. And if we had been smart
So
girls, we would have had an old book, but we have a new book, Night
it's
Magic.
called Night Magic,
Yeah.
Adventures Among Glowworms, Moon Gardens, and Other Marvels of the Dark. And it's by Leanne, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, maybe Hinion. And she has been a New York Times bestselling writer because of her other book. And then she wrote this book. And what do you want to say about it, Carol? You picked it out.
Well, this is I would call this a memoir of observing things at night. And if you ever and I'm going to mispronounce her name too. She's blurbed on the front cover. Remember Amy Nezakumatalahil, who wrote World
Yes.
of Wonders and how we love that book?
Mhm.
Or um, dazzling, prepare to be enchanted, prepare to love the darkness. And it's really, Leanne goes out into the dark and tells you all the things that she discovers about being in the dark, and
Yeah.
all the critters and creatures and the differences out there.
Yeah, it's completely different. I think it's cool because she has two quotes at the beginning, and one is a Wendell Berry quote, and the other
I
one's
saw
Henry
that.
David Thoreau. And
Yes.
out here where I live, the dark is very different at night. Yeah, because
Well, now
sometimes I
here
visit at your house too.
we have too
Well,
much
you
light
guys have
pollution here,
lights. Yeah, we don't have
tons of light
lights.
pollution. And in fact, there used to be an observatory by Mooresville, Indiana, that had to shut down because too much light pollution from the city kept encroaching upon it. And so they ended up shutting that thing down. But when I was looking through this book, it reminded me of a couple summers ago, we got all hooked on the Duchess of Devonshire, and
Yes,
somehow
Devo.
that led to Guernsey Island, and then we talked about Sark Island, which is a dark skies community where they have
Yeah, it
no
is.
lights at night, and so people flock to that island to see the stars as they've never seen them before because there's no light pollution.
I love memoirs, so I think I'll like it a lot. I got it from our
Yes.
library.
Yes. So it says, in the glorious celebration of the night, New York Times bestselling nature writer Leanne Henyon invites us to leave our well-lit homes,
Sorry.
step outside, and embrace the dark as a profoundly beautiful part of the world we inhabit. Because no matter where we live, we are surrounded by animals that rise with the moon and blooms that reveal themselves as light fades. Henyon explores her home region of Appalachia. She attends a
Oh,
synchronous
she went
firefly
to
event in
she went to the
Tennessee,
Firefly deal. Yeah.
a bat outing in Alabama, and a moth festival in Ohio. In North Carolina, she finds forests alight with bioluminescent mushrooms, neighboring trees full of screech owls. I do hear owls at night around here.
I do too. Uh-huh.
Valleys teeming with migratory salamanders. I never thought I would say the words migratory salamanders together like that. Along the way, she encounters naturalists, biologists, primitive skills expert, and others who've dedicated their lives to cultivating relationship with darkness. It's a
You know
very
what? It kind of reminds me of the butterfly book. The same idea where she went and sought out people and she found out everything there was to know about butterflies. And in this case, she's finding out everything there is to know about the night.
It says, we do not need to stargaze into the distant cosmos or dive into the depths of oceans to find awe in the dark. There are dazzling wonders in our own backyards, and fans of World of Wonders, which we've read, Entangled Life, which sounds familiar.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think I've read that, and I have not read The Hidden Life of Trees. They'll discover joy in night magic. So anyway, that's a good book.
Yeah,
Good
it looks really good. I'm
good
excited about
summer
it.
reading book because one is more likely to go outside into the dark in the summertime or maybe go on a trip and end up in the
So
dark.
I just want to say one thing about going out in the dark in the summertime here. When the cicadas start to emerge from their shells, I don't think
Yes.
I'd be out walking around in the trees in the dark because that's when the copperheads come out to eat them. You don't want to
Well,
accidentally stumble across a copperhead.
you are such a killjoy, G.
Sorry.
Well, that is a point well taken. So I've started reading this book. I'm going to continue to read it. This is one of those, I'm going to be dipping in and out of. Actually, it's one that I might like to check out the audiobook too. That might be fun.
I think it'd be a good audiobook. I do.
So, okay,
And
that is,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's Night Magic: Adventures Among Glowworms, Moon Gardens, and Other Marvels of the Dark by Lee Ann Henyon.
All
Something
right.
different.
It has no pictures, so if there's a Kindle version, you could read it on Kindle very easily.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my quote. Hope is a renewable option. If you run out of it at the end of the day, you get to start over in the morning. And that's Barbara Kingsolver, a really good novelist and naturalist.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the dirt is dirt that we've had for a while.
Yeah, it's been on our list and we could like, what dirt, what dirt, what dirt. And then I remembered we saw on Instagram there's a 1,000-year-old oak in Scotland. It's called the Skipinish oak, and it was the UK's tree of the year for 2024 or
Mhm.
2025, 2024, I guess. Um,
This isn't the one somebody cut down, is it? I hope.
no, no. It says native
Okay,
woodland
good.
experts had no idea the tree existed until a gathering in 2009. It said that the band Skip Inich, which I've never heard of, plays traditional and contemporary Scottish music, knew of the tree and led the conservationists to where it was hidden in a non-native Sitka spruce plantation on Auchnacarry Estate in the Scottish Highlands.
Cool.
So anyway, that
So
is a
it's
very
very
old
cool.
looking tree.
It
I don't
is
know how
got
they
moss
figured
on
out it was a
it, and
1,000 years old, but we'll put a link.
well, it looks 1,000 years old, so I believe them.
It looks like it has been around quite a while.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the angel oak off the coast of South Carolina on St. John's Island?
Mm-mm.
I've been to see the angel oak. It was we'll put a link to that too, because I'm just talking off the top of my head. Terrible thing to do. But the angel oak, I think at one time was the largest living organism east of the Mississippi River. And it's in a fenced off area, and I don't know how old it is, but it is
I can tell you because I just
massive.
looked it up. It's
Okay.
between 300 and 500 years old. It is 66.5 feet tall with a circumference of 28 feet and provides shade covering 17,200 square feet. That is a big
So
tree.
it's a baby compared to the 1,000-year-old oak in Scotland, but
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Well, I went and I took a picture of it, and I had to take left side, center, right side, and then that was in the film days. That was how long ago. I got the film developed, and then I taped them together. And I remember that hung in my cubicle at work, and then in my office at work. And so the last
Uh-huh.
time I was in a cubicle and work was like 1986,
Yeah, long time ago.
1987. Yeah, 1987, 88, I guess. So I actually saw it, and I'm going to tell you now, I saw it I'm going to say the summer of 84. There you go.
Cool. I was in college.
I don't want to hear.
Okay, so you want to do the next quote?
Many of the arts practiced at home are especially nourishing to the soul because they foster contemplation and demand a degree of artfulness, such as arranging flowers, cooking, and making repairs. Thomas More.
Cool. Go Thomas.
Rabbit,
He's right. He's
rabbit
right. I
holes.
mean, I love to cook and I love to do all those things. So I even like to iron occasionally. All right, my rabbit hole is I spent a lot of time watching the Chelsea Flower Show on BritBox this week, and I still have more to watch because, as you know, every night they have a little segment on it, and now you can get it on BritBox. So that's
I
been
I
very enjoyable.
I did not know that it was on BritBox. I did know that Chelsea was like such a big event. There was a nightly recap.
Yes, every night.
So I started
And
looking up a
it was
lost lady of
fun.
garden writing who died in 1841.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Uh-huh. And so it was one of those cold afternoons, and I just started digging around, and the woman's name was Lucy Hooper.
Cool. Are you going to write
And
about her soon?
next week, she's mostly known as a poet, but her book has the most beautiful color page. It has 6 color pages in it, which is kind of a big deal, 1841. And actually,
Yeah.
the book came out after she died, so she never got to
Huh.
see it. And
That's
anyway,
interesting.
yeah, you go down a rabbit hole, and she was an abolitionist in New
Huh.
York.
Yeah.
So,
But also wrote about gardening.
well, in a roundabout way. So, some might say
That'll
I'm
be
stretching the
interesting.
definition, but
How cold has it been in Indiana? Because you and
it's
Teresa have both been talking about it.
um well, it's been like I think the highs the last 2 days were in the high 50s. Now today it's supposed to get up to like 69, which like call it 70, 71, and be in the highs in the low 70s for the next several days. But I mean, it was Tuesday was just completely cold and rainy. Wednesday was cold. I even put on a sweatshirt later in the day.
Hmm.
Yesterday was kind of cold. I went out and did some stuff, but I mean, yeah, Teresa's and I are right. It's cold.
Yeah, it was like that all the way through April here. I was like,
And
it's never going to stop. And it was kind of cold part of May. And right now I mean, it got up to 82 today, but it still was really chilly this morning. So
well,
one
the
of my
pepper,
clients was upset because her periwinkles died and she didn't know why. And I said, because it was too cold. I
the
said, they do
annual
not,
vinca.
the
Yeah.
Vinca, they do not like cool weather and wet weather. And we had both. And I said, just replant them. They'll be fine.
Yeah, because
Nothing you
that's
did.
at the greenhouse, that vinca, that annual vinca, that is the last thing that she plants. And people go in there in early May and they think, oh, these are so tiny. And I told this one guy
Mhm.
because he was looking, he says, I didn't, and I says, they're tiny because it's too soon for these. And she knows that. And that's why she's going to have them ready for Memorial Day weekend, which is the best time to plant them.
Yeah.
So,
I only planted mine a week ago because it's been chilly.
so
So,
anyway, I was able to do well, and I did a bunch of research because I thought I need to write this article early because I thought I was going to have jury duty on Tuesday.
and you lucked out.
Well, I looked it up right before we got on the podcast because they said by like
Yep.
5:30 the business day before, which would be today, Friday. and it already said that I was ended. I am not needed to report. It's like, whew.
You were glad, weren't you?
Yeah, you just it's like there's this hard stop at the end of the day. Monday's like, am I gonna have to go there on Tuesday? And how long would I be there on Tuesday? Am I gonna be there for several days?
Yep,
They said, bring your
I've done it.
lunch. What am I gonna pack for my lunch? Anyway,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
it
garden
was
commissions.
interesting.
You ready?
I am.
Okay. So I'm going to plant that rose
Wait a
and I'm going to
minute,
set
Dee.
up.
You bought 3 roses.
I already planted the other two. They're in pots.
Oh, aren't you on top of
They're
things?
already done. Yeah, everything's planted. I bought a pelargonium today, a real pretty one that I found that was different. And I potted it up before we did the podcast. Like I came home and potted
Want
it
you
up and
some?
watered it and stuck it back in there.
Ain't you
Um,
some?
I
Ain't
am.
you
And
some?
so I've got to plant the one rose in the garden in the take out Basie. And then what else did I say I'm going to do? Oh, I am going to set up the watering on the deck this weekend. My son said he'd come help me. And then I'm trying to buy 2 concrete containers on Facebook. And I've made an offer, and I think the seller is thinking about it. So we'll see if it happens. If that happens, Basie might get to live. I might just trim him back with the part that's dead and just say, okay, you get to live another year. We'll see. Because then I would put
That's that
the
that's that rose you were gonna get rid of.
I'll just put the other rose in a pot if I get these pots, but she hasn't written back. I probably irritated her because I think she wants too much for her pots. That's all with me. What are you doing? Weed, mold, mulch. That's the other one. Weed, water, mulch.
Well, I'm gonna mow and weed. I gotta finish weeding in the vegetable garden along the back row where I plant flowers. But I'm all ready to direct sow stuff in the garden, so that's gonna happen hopefully today, Friday. If not, it'll be early tomorrow morning. It is time to start trimming some of those shrubs like the lilacs and stuff. They've grown tremendously. Uh, and I had put on here that I might have to go to jury duty, but we know that's off the table.
Yay.
So, so then, gotta water and want to
Are you
edge
feeding
beds.
your, I have a question about your stuff you're doing. Are you gonna feed your containers, with a foliar feed every week like you did last year?
No, I'm reverting back to an organic fertilizer that's got
Hmm.
like I bought it. I mean, it's like the icky brown stuff in a jug or a bottle and
But
you
that's
poured
still
it.
foliar feeding.
No, I mean I'm putting it on the soil. I'm not going to put it on the foliage.
So it's a granular one? Is that
No,
what it
it's a
is?
liquid, but it's
Okay,
throw
so
it's
let me ask you this way because you're being very technical. It is a liquid feed. I guess that's what I should have said. Are you still going to do a liquid feed like you did last year?
yes, on Fridays.
I do it on Sundays. That's what I was trying to get you to say. Okay, go on.
Well, you did get me to say that, Dee, and now that you're trying to manipulate me all over the place, I'm going to end this podcast. We want to thank you for listening to Garden Angeles. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
And if you subscribe to our free newsletter, you get a link to listen to the podcast a whole day early and links to the products we discuss. Some are affiliate links, and it really is nice if you go and click on them and buy stuff. Plus, you can go over to YouTube and see us in person. Full episodes now show up on Tuesdays.
And if you want to help support us, use our affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we're in a small commission and it costs you nothing extra.
Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal.
Thank you to everyone who has done so. It helps us pay for podcast hosting.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the garden gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.